Hi guys, I haven't filmed in this spot in a really long time, but this is my desk, and so today I am going to read the plot to Night of the Living Dummy. So, let's go. Let me just move my camera down a bit. Okay, let's do this. So, this is the plot. So, twin sisters Lindy and Chris Powell are taking a walk when they decide to check out a house that is under construction next door. Lindy finds a ventriloquist dummy in the dumpster behind the house and decides to call it Slappy. When Chris asks her why, Lindy threatens to slap her. Chris and Lindy like to compete for everything, so Lindy suddenly finds a great success with Slappy and makes Chris jealous. It is revealed that the neighborhood children love ventriloquism. Lindy is soon offered $20 to perform at birthday parties, and Chris begins to ask her parents for a dummy of her own. Her parents propose two girls could share Slappy. When Chris attempts to retrieve the toy from Lindy, Slappy tells her that she is a moron, and she does slap her across the face. The next day, Mr. Powell brings home another ventriloquist dummy that he bought at a pawn shop. Chris names him Mr. Wood. Then she begins bragging to Lindy that her toy has better clothes than Slappy. Lindy comes back the very next day, has more stories of how she is good at talking out of a toy. Lindy also reveals that besides just telling jokes, she and Slappy have a rap routine. A couple days later, Lindy is volunteered to help Chris with the ventriloquism, as Chris is being told by the music teacher that she can perform at the school concert. Then, helping her, Mr. Wood goes into a violent rage towards Chris and starts calling her terrible names. Chris hops over to pull the dummy away from Lindy, and Lindy insists that she didn't do anything. The toy's alive. Later that night, sisters walk in on Mr. Wood strangling Slappy. The two girls agree to talk to the mummy about the strange occurrences. They walk in on her reading a Stephen King book. Their mother tells them to shut up about dummies and go to bed. Later that night, Chris finds Mr. Wood in the kitchen, surrounded by a pile of food from the fridge and also her jewelry. Lindy comes down and sees Chris frozen in shock from the sight, and they have to clean it all up. Miss Powell comes downstairs in a already grouchy since Mr. Powell is away in business. She threatens to take both their dummies away if they cannot quit pretending that one of the dummies is evil. The two girls talk her out of such a punishment by promising to clean everything up. Back upstairs, Lindy diabolically admits that she is responsible for all of Wood's misbehavior. God, what a bad sister. The next day, Chris finds a piece of paper in Mr. Wood's pocket. She recites the same foreign language printed on the piece of the paper. Karumara Odana Loma Malun Karam. You and I, which means you and I are one now. And is astonished to see the dummy even blink, even though her hand is nowhere near the blinking mechanism. How is that possible? Later that night, Mr. and Mr. Miller stop for a visit. The parents volunteer the children to perform for the elderly guests. Chris foolishly suspects Lindy go first, and naturally, Lindy kills. Chris copes and still figures it would be a good practice for her appearance at the concert the next day. Before she can begin to act, though, Mr. Wood begins brutally harassing the old couple. Mr. Wood asks if Mr. Miller is growing a mustache or is he simply eating a rat. Chris runs away crying, and her parents ground her, but still allow her to perform at the concert. The following day, Miss Bremen leads Chris up the stage. While an overweight woman adjusts the microbe, Mr. Wood lets fly some real humdiggers about her weight. Appalling that the children's dummy would have such a fool attitude, the teacher demands for an apology. Mr. Wood replies by puking green vomit at her. Then he turns his mouth open at the audience and soaking the other children in vomit. Miss Bremen tells Chris that she is suspended from school and has it her way, possibly expelled if she keeps doing this. Back at home, Mr. Powell tells Chris that Mr. Wood is going back to the pawn shop on Monday. He tosses the toy in the closet and sternly warns Chris about playing with horrible vomiting ventriloquist dummy that she hates. Chris drifts off to sleep but is woken by an unmistakable sound of wooden feet walking across the carpeted floor. She's startled to say Mr. Wood had come out of the closet. She's even more shocked when he tells her about the Okay, I'll keep going. She's even more shocked when he tells her without a lisp that her and her sister are his slaves. Chris pounces on the dummy, and the toy responds by punching her in the stomach. Wounded, Chris drops the toy and it scampers away down the hall. Chris catches up to it at the top of the stairs and throws herself over the toy. Lindy walks through the hall, understandably has a few more questions. Chris attempts to get up and explain. Mr. Wood slips out from underneath her and makes his way down the stairs like a snake. Chris runs up to catch him and pins him beneath her foot. Just as her parents arrive to ask what is going on, Chris and Lindy try to explain to their parents, but the parents ground Lindy, believing that she helped Chris in the concert incident. Beginning to question Chris's mental well-being, they suggest that maybe she should see a doctor. As soon as the parents disappear back upstairs, the toy comes back to life and tells the girls that he is their slave. Lindy and Chris respond by decapitating him, first by pulling off his head, then by twisting it off, then finally by hacking at it by a pair of scissors. None of these tactics work, and Mr. Wood calmly remains that they are his slaves. Mr. Wood soon finds himself stuffed into a suitcase by the other two girls and buried beneath the loose soil in the construction site next door. After digging all night, the girls too collapse into their beds and drift off to sleep. Chris wakes up early and makes her way downstairs, only to find Mr. Wood waiting for her. She calls her family, but her parents continue to leave her and leave the house to go to the store. Chris pleads for her father to bring the dummy back to the pawn shop today, but Mr. Powell says no. Mr. Wood tells the two girls that someone is going to die to show he is serious, and starts choking Barky, the family dog. The girls tried pulling the evil dummy off the dog, but only ended up dragging Miss Wood and the dying dog across the kitchen tiles. Yeah, Mr. Wood's way more eviler. Mr. Wood finally loosens the scraps on Barky, and the two girls run outside and toss Mr. Wood in the path of a steamroll. Right before Mr. Wood is about to get hit, Barky runs into the path of the steamroll, and the two girls are forced to let Mr. Wood go to rescue the dog. Mr. Wood escapes and begins taunting the children, a taunt that is interrupted by another steamroller, which slams them from behind, and a mysterious green gas which rises from the corpse of the toy. The driver running out the steamroller begins to panic because he thinks he ran over a child. Then the girls explain that he only ran over a ventriloquist dummy. The twin sisters tell him that he can keep the toy's smashed corpse, and they walk back home. Once the girls arrive, Slappy says to Chris, who was going to shut the open window, "Hey, slave, is that other guy gone? I thought he'd never leave," and he screeches with an evil laughter. So that is the plot to Night of the Living Dummy. Thank you for watching, and comment down below any other books or movies you might want me to review for you guys. So thank you for watching, if you did watch.